Hello, my name is Aubrey-Chimene, and I'm the director of Photonic Therapy Institute, your host for this Independence from Pain Summit. My guest this session is Dr. Ginger Bowler. Ginger has a PhD in energy medicine and is one of the premier light therapy educators in the world today. After years of working with the natural health expert Hannah Kroger, she's now the director of Light Energy Training Seminars and Energy Events US. Ginger is the author of numerous books on natural health and has developed the above-the-line, below-the-line model for understanding energy and managing our energy field. My favorite quote from Ginger's writings is, "Everything is energy vibrating at its own unique frequency." She is joining me today to expand upon that thought and to share her views and experiences of working with light for healing the body and our lives. Welcome, Ginger.
Thank you. Thank you, Kay.
So we've been working together now since, 2000?
100 years ago?
Yeah, it's been a while. So,
yes.
and this field has changed. I mean, it has exploded in that 10 years. What we know about light, the research that's going on about light, how we use light, everything has been shifting and moving so quickly.
Yeah.
What's it been like for you?
Well, you know, when I first got into the field, you entered the field at least a decade before I did, as far as specifically light therapy.
Using it.
Because you know, for me, light therapy using a device, it's only been about 10 years. I've been teaching in the field for 33 years, but I've only been in the light therapy end for about 10 years. And so I remember when I was first introduced to light therapy, I had an event center in Louisville, Colorado. And so groups would rent the center. And so the light therapy people started coming in. And my friend who was renting the facility kept wanting me to, buy a device. And at the time I was like, I've got Hannah Kroger's work, I've got biogenesis, I've got, other biofeedback. I was biofeedback instructor and all that. And I really didn't need another expensive toy. And so, she kept telling me that light therapy was for, to relax us, calm us down. And I thought, well, if I want to relax, I'll meditate, And I knew she wanted to sell me a device. I mean, that bottom line, right? And I was so resistant to it. And so, and pretty arrogant too, I would have to say, thinking I have everything I need in my toolbox with Hannah Kroger's work and the other things, an amazing biofeedback device, etc. But and I know you know the story or you've heard the story, but for our listening audience who hasn't, what happened was that this friend kept doing little demos with the system with me, and a pad-based system. I don't know, I'm sure I don't know if you have one right now you can hold up. I don't have one at my desk, but
we'll flash a picture.
I'm sure people coming to this event know the different pad-based systems. So anyway, she was always trying to do demos and put it on a specific relaxing channel for me. And, but, I didn't experience anything but some relaxation. And, but I kept hearing people coming in, for different things and anti-aging and different things. Well, I was interested in other things. I didn't have pain in my body. That's what it was. She kept saying, this is for pain, this is for pain. Also, and it's like, well, I don't have pain. So it's not for me. I don't need a $5,000 toy, I have my $20,000 biofeedback device. But anyway, one day, no one was in the office, and she had told me I could use her system. Well, I did go sneak over to her little cubicle and put the pad on my throat for anti-aging reasons, and the system runs, many of our different systems, run for 20 minutes and then it shuts itself off. So after 20 minutes, I got up in the mirror and I'm looking and, I can't tell anything's happening. I don't know what I thought was going to happen in 20 minutes. But then I went I was going to lunch, got in my car, went to lunch, and a song came on the radio, and I started singing the song. And I had not been able to sing at all for 2 years. And singing is very important to me. I mean, I was always just a choir singer, not like a soloist or anything, but I love to sing. And I have young children now, and I wanted to be able to sing Happy Birthday and Santa's Coming to Town and things like that. So after just one 20-minute session on photobiomodulation, we didn't have that term at the time, but my singing voice came back. And of course, one would think that my immediate thought would be it was the light therapy. But even as many miracles as I've seen in our industry, I really, in the natural healing arts and energy medicine, that was a stretch for me, that using some lights on my throat for 20 minutes for anti-aging is going to do anything to my singing voice. Now, I now know that the talking voice is using the same mechanism as the singing voice. So why I could talk but not sing, I still don't know the answer to that question. But so instead of thinking, oh, that light therapy was wonderful, I thought, oh, what did I eat today? What you eat or drink can affect your singing voice. And I couldn't think of anything that I had eaten or drank different than any other day. And I thought, well, was it that light therapy? And I just dismissed it. So for 4.5 days, I had so enjoyed being able to sing again. And on the afternoon of that 5th day, the grovel came back in my voice and the notes weren't connecting. That's what was happening. And so then I had the thought, well, as a scientist, which I don't really consider myself a hardcore scientist, but as a scientist, if it was the light therapy, it should be repeatable.
Right.
So I went back and I used it again. I've been able to sing ever since. And this is something that feeds my soul. I think I write songs and blah 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 now, and I've always made up songs for my children, things, and so the delight of having music and song back in my life is just really important to me, and I'm still singing, and that's been 10 years or so now, and so I always tell my students, not everybody has a muscular pain or arthritic pain or kidney pain or whatever. Sometimes the pain is something emotional, right. Like I want to be able to sing and I can't sing. So that's actually how I came to light therapy. And then, of course, just like all of us who love light therapy, we have a million stories of our own personal. My daughter using it, halfway through the flu when I couldn't get anything, down her, not even a homeopathic liquid remedy to try to stop the vomiting within 10 minutes of light therapy. She sat up and said, I'm hungry. Do we have anything to eat? It's like, how did that happen? And that was even actually before I owned a system. I, again, borrowed my friend's system. So I can't exactly remember the question you asked me, but something about what did you ask me again?
I don't remember, other than maybe how did you get started and what brought you to it?
Well, because I had been already teaching for 22 years, Hannah's work and biofeedback and all of that, and anything that helped a person have a better life. And I didn't, when I was introduced to light therapy, I really didn't want to, at the time, the systems were about 5,000 for a little system, Right. When I finally said, oh, I have to have one of these, when I started using it in my business, and I found it was the easiest modality of everything that I had ever used, because you could put the pads on someone and turn on the system, choose whatever setting, turn it on, and walk out of the room. Right. And the system turns itself off. Or I could rent systems out and just show the person, this is where put it where it hurts, turn the system on, you're gonna fall asleep probably, it's gonna turn itself off. And so I remember having the thought, after using it a lot and starting to get involved with light therapy, I really remember the moment where I said, God, I must have been a good worker bee to be given such an easy modality, because, it would take us weeks to get the biofeedback students, which these extraordinary devices, but weeks to get people feeling proficient. But I can have someone feeling proficient with light therapy in, 20 minutes.
Right.
And so I felt like, and I still feel like, light therapy was given to us for a job well done, for all the years that we've spent trying to bring the natural healing arts to people and self-care at home. That's the term I'm using now all the time, is especially during this time that we're living, is that people more and more need to be taught self-care.
My focus has always been in self-empowerment, helping people to take care of themselves.
Right.
And for me, this whole period of isolation and fear and pandemic and all of that, I am working on emotionally. It's just a conversion to opening the way for people to realize that they have all the tools they need, or can have all the tools they need, without turning over their health and their decision-making to someone else. They can do so much for themselves, their family, their animals, without, without drugs, without surgery, without other intervention.
I've recently, had a conversation with someone, and I won't get into it, but too much, but to make a point, he was, really promoting the whole pharmaceutical approach to COVID virus and all that. And I was like, do you really think our maker made a body that would have to depend on pharmaceutical? I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, I'm glad we have our pharmaceutical, and I'm glad we, like Hannah, my teacher Hannah Kroger would say, we need the medical industry, and we're not trying to throw them away or anything. We want to work, we want both sides to be working together. But, Hannah told us 33, and some of the other, her other students, 33 years ago, that in the future, healing would come from color, sound, and light. And I remember thinking, nuh-uh. I thought, no, that is just too doggone weird. I thought, no, come on. I mean, but that sounds nice, but how's that possible? But, she had, one of her most famous quotes, which I know is that the body, and this will give us context, that the body is the most brilliant computer that was ever designed, and that there would never be a computer smarter than the human body. Given the proper information or the proper encouragement, the body would heal itself.
Right.
So whether or not, that's proper, nutrients that we're, having, moving our body, getting exercise, etc., or light. Light is the main, as you know a whole lot more about the science of light than I do still, of course, to this day, but light is the main nutrient of every cell, and every living thing needs light. So how brilliant is it at this time of our evolution and walk on this planet, I should say, our experience here, how brilliant that we're being given these gifts, I believe, that allows us very simply to give the body the information it needs to heal itself. And that's, one of the many things is light therapy, photobiomodulation.
And you remind me of this with the reference to the body being this brilliant computer. Those computers need batteries. They need energy. They have to be plugged in or given a power supply. And when we use light therapy in the light colors that are absorbed,
Right.
It's absorbing that energy supply. It's resupplying our cells with the energy to do their jobs better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons, everybody's got their own way of working with their different systems and stuff like that. But it's one of the reasons why, whenever I do a demo for someone, I always put it, a pad mid-back, because an easiest way to get the battery of the body charged, besides, of course, the cells, the battery and the mitochondria and all that, but literally the adrenal glands, which sit on top of the kidneys. And for people who don't know the physiology of the body, well, the kidneys are renal glands, and adrenals are add to the renal glands, so little cap-like glands on top of the kidneys. And that's literally the battery of the body.
Right.
So if we have a depressed adrenals, it's like having the most expensive car in the world with a dead battery.
That's right.
The human body will not heal if you don't take care of those adrenals. You've got to take care of the adrenal glands. So a really cool way to jumpstart the system is to put light therapy, in my experience, at the adrenal.
Right.
And it's amazing how fast someone will shift. So.
And you know me, I'm all about detox. That's my key word in everything I work with my clients. And our program is Cleanse, Nourish, Balance. And I'm all about lighting up the liver. So that same thing, when we're lighting up the back, and we're getting the kidneys and the adrenals and the liver, and then doing the stomach and supporting the microbiome and the liver's ability to do its job, the turnarounds are remarkable. Gives, like you said, the body heals itself.
Right. And, when we're doing a demo, if we just have a few pads, we always do it there, always over the liver, try to get it also over the navel, since all the blood's passing right there. And then, if you have another pad, depends on if we really need to calm the person down, getting the nervous system calmed down here, or I love putting a face mask on, and for me that's super relaxing. But otherwise, put it where it hurts.
Right.
Otherwise put it where it hurts. But I do feel like light therapy, it's the first of all the modalities that I have either used, practiced, taught, whatever, that truly is able, it's appropriate for any household, right?
You're not worrying about damaging anyone, right?
Yeah, you're not going to hurt. So as a class, most of the devices I'm aware of out there that are light therapy devices, certainly the ones that we use, class 2 medical devices, what does that mean? It means it's a device that does no harm. So, it may not take care of the issue, right? But you're not going to hurt someone. And that's another, when my kids were 3 years old, they would go over to the device and, put it on themselves, be under there for a couple minutes, felt better, they have a little tummy ache or whatever, and then they're off and running. My daughter, the reason I got my second device back, 11 years ago, whenever that was that after I finally caved in after the singing thing and bought a device, she would use it all the time because she would break out, and she was a teenager. So I was going to teach a Hannah class or whatever. Anytime I'm teaching, whether it's biofeedback or, quantum biofeedback or Hannah's work or whatever, I always would take my light device before I started actually taking classes, right? So I remember, I was going to, pack up the device, and she looks at me like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going, I have a show, an event. And she goes, I know, but what are you doing? I said, well, I'm, taking the light device. She goes, you can't take that,
That's the same thing for my husband.
The whole family uses this. And that's another really good point too. Yeah. Another thing, which I think is so gracious of our maker, to provide us with a tool that it doesn't wear it out if the whole family uses it.
That's right.
right? So another
I
incredible.
ended up with my second system because I was headed off to go teach a class, and my husband was, well, you can't take the light therapy system, right? You have to leave that for me. I'm like, wait a minute. So, well then, dear, we're going to have a second system, and I don't want to admit to how many different devices and different systems I have now, but if somebody has an emergency, I have a system for them, right?
Yep. Yeah, well, that's, after that, actually, I caved in and, bought another system. And I also have many systems now, but then I had a very lucrative rental program because I had, a lot of equipment and all
Right.
that, you know.
It's amazing how often you don't get them back when you rent them.
Well, you know what I would do, when my rental program was, in the old days, remember when we had territories with one of the first companies that we were with, that we had these, instead of that you could sell to anybody, we were with Avalon, and they're not in existence anymore. But anyway, so we had these territories. So I would have to, travel to Louisiana to be able to sell, because I couldn't sell here in Colorado because these protected territories. Thank God we're not operating under that model anymore in this global society that we have. But we ended up, having such a strong rental program that, I had like 7 units out all, 5 to 7 units out all the time. And they would convert, that makes a happy customer, because they know that they love the system, and so then they want to buy it. So what I would start to do was, I knew my customers well enough, because a lot of them been my customers for 30 years, and if I was pretty sure they were going to buy one and I was having to ship a rental, I would ship them a new system.
Right.
So they could just keep it. You do that. Yeah, I'm sure you've done that too. So, so that, because it'd be like, yeah, I knew you were going to do that. So just keep that one, because you're the first person that's used that. And so commonly turn over my rentals. I didn't like to keep things in the rental program too long. So we would turn them over for the new one. But I paid for most of my equipment with rentals, which was really cool.
That's
And
very
it's
good.
fun to share, because it's an easy modality. Great grandmother can use the lights, and so can great grandchild.
You have a wonderful story. I don't know if the echo is on my part or yours. You have a wonderful story about lighting up your great aunt, or
Yeah,
who could barely walk when she came in. Would you share that with us?
I would love to. Well, there's two stories. One, my first one about that is a 101-year-old gentleman at a trade show, whose daughter, this is, right in the beginning, whose daughter, I think it was a 4-day trade show. She would wheel him up in his wheelchair twice a day, in the morning and then again in the evening, to get a free 20-minute session. When he first came in, he was all, like hunched over in his wheelchair, couldn't sit up straight. And we'd put the pads on him, and, it was a busy trade show. And so by the morning of the fourth day, she wheels him up, and he's sitting up straight in his chair. And he gets out of the chair and he starts running down the aisle. And she's chasing him with the wheelchair. And he's a little guy and he's running. And she's like, get back in. And literally he said, I just got out of that damn thing. I'm not getting back in. That's a true story. And I have a great picture of us together, because he was so proud. He's standing up like he could walk now. If I hadn't seen that myself, I don't think I would have believed it. But just in case I didn't believe it, I always say, I call God Big Sweetie. Big Sweetie, wants to make sure I'm convinced on certain things. And so I went to my mother's house, and one of my brother-in-law's mother lived with my mother. So we called her Good Ma. Anyway, so Good Ma she had a walker. So it took her about 20 minutes to, get all the way across the living room she and my mom had chairs next to, big, chairs next to each other. And so I said, Good Ma, I have something new, and it's this light therapy. Well, she had these dark sunglasses that even had to the sides, the, shades. She had 2 or 3 layers of black fabric. Now I mentioned black fabric because if you have to put the lights over material, the lighter the color of the fabric, the more the light penetrates.
Right.
Well,
Right.
So I tell her about the light therapy, and she's like, nothing doing, you're not putting the lights on my skin. I wanted to put it directly on the skin, nothing doing. No way we're going to put a face mask on her. No way, she's got those glasses. So I had 3 pads, and I can put them on her hands. So I put a pad on her lap, and she put her hands, with the lights showing up. And then she had heavy black stockings on. So I put another pad on the floor, and she put her feet on the pad. And then I put the one other little pad somewhere, I think the back of her head. Well, 20 minutes, the system shuts off. Well, I think I've got one chance with Good Ma, and normally I would not have done 40 minutes the first time I'm working with an elderly person, because you want to go a little bit slower. They're going to get circulation back in areas they haven't had circulation in a while, and although you're not going to hurt them, it can feel a little disconcerting when all of a sudden there's oxygen getting to places. So anyway, but, she let me do another 20 minutes. And I just moved the pads because I knew from research that wherever the pads were, when you flood the system with that much high quality light in a small area, the research that I had read said that all the nitric oxide had been released in the body at that location, so in 20 to 30 minutes. So if you want more release of nitric oxide, that miracle molecule of the body that so many physiological processes are enhanced in the presence of nitric oxide, that we should move the pads. So I just moved the pads. Let's see. So I had them on her hands and her feet. Now my rationale on hands and feet were to try to get the circulation all the way into the extremities, right? So I don't remember. I think I might have put the face mask on her chest, and I know what I did. I turned over the pad that she had her hands on the lap. I turned it over so it was hitting the groin area for the lymphatics, right? And anyway, so she fell asleep. So she was under the lights for about, 40 minutes, and she fell asleep, and she slept for about another, 20, 30 minutes after the lights turned off. And so now mind you, it took her 20 minutes to get in her little walker across the living room, a small living room, and sitting down like this, how they plop down from their walkers. So here it is. She's done. She wakes up and she looks around, and I've taken the pads off her, and she looks around and she goes, and just walks out of the room. Forgot her walker. If I had not seen that with my own eyes, I would not believe this story. That's honest to God. In 40 minutes, she was able to leave that walker behind. So, and that was a lot of that light therapy was on top of fabric, because when I said I put it on her chest, it would have been on top of a couple layers of fabric. So we do know that the light will penetrate. And let's face it, in a lot of the trade shows that we've worked, we have to, people don't want to shove it up under their shirt or whatever. You just have to put it over fabric. So we've seen enough results to know that, enough light is penetrating to make a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
We did a horse show, a horse fair a couple years ago, where a young woman came in who had had surgery on her, I think she like her knee replacement. And her boots, she of course went to a horse fair, so she wore her cowboy boots. And she was worried they were going to have to cut them off of her. She was in so much pain, that right leg, the boot was, so she has a leather boot all the way to her knee. Her knee is so swollen that you needed to cut the blue jeans to move that. We certainly couldn't get her pants, down under or up under her pants. So we just took the pads and wrapped her knee and wrapped the boot. We said, what the heck? And did her lower back and did it at her groin to open the lymph. And 20 minutes later, she walked away with loose boots. She was astonished.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the miracles, and I think it's a miracle. But again, we're giving the body what it needs to heal itself. The information needs to heal itself, and that's light. And then, as you're mentioning, opening the lymph up. There's some tricks of the trade that we've learned along the way to get the person into parasympathetic, to get the lymph system moving and all of that. And, our bodies heal when we're in parasympathetic, that, but in case our listening audience doesn't know what that means you got to get really, really, really relaxed.
Yeah.
And that's when the body's going to heal. And that's why sleep is one of the reasons why sleep is so important, because the body and the mind, needs that reset time.
I'm sure you've seen the same thing I have, that when you work with people with severe PTSD or other issues where they just don't sleep. There are people who tell me that I worked on one gentleman at a veterans crisis, outreach program. We were out in a parking lot. There was a rock and roll band going. We're under bright halogen lights. There's motorcycle rallies going for the veterans 5 feet away from us. It was incredibly loud. And this gentleman came up. He said he had not slept in 3 to 4 years. Other than to just be in and out. And he slept in a recliner and all of that. And we put the lights on him in that environment. And within 10 minutes, he was snoring and drooling and completely out. And we, like you had just mentioned with Good Ma, we left him on for 40 minutes. We were packing, it was like midnight. We're packing our truck, trying to get out of there. So we just left him under the lights in a chair under this halogen lamp. And when the 40 minutes was up, we had to wake him up. And he's like, well, why did you wake me up? I said, well, it's been 40 minutes. And he just was astonished. Walked across the parking lot and bought himself a system after that. Because he knew, if nothing else, he was going to get to sleep.
I love how many times in this past decade, I have had people in a trade show situation, or a lot of times I'm doing the light therapy in the back of the classroom where I'm teaching a different kind of seminar, like a Hannah Kroger seminar, or some other health seminar, and we're letting either in the back of the room or in the light therapy, separate room, letting people do light therapy. I love how many times I will always tell a person, you're probably going to fall asleep, and that's okay. Don't try to stay awake. And they'll say, that's impossible. I never sleep in the middle of the day, or I never sleep for more than an hour at a time. And that'll be the person who ends up having to go up to their room or whatever and sleeps for 14 hours straight after even just one light therapy session. So I think there must be some major reset going on. And then, I personally believe on an energetic level, that just because, and I hope this doesn't stretch someone's spiritual beliefs too much or whatever, but, I believe that a lot of darkness gets cleared from us, flooding ourselves with that much light. And a lot of times the darkness may not even be our own. It's just heavy negative thought forms and mass consciousness and stuff sometimes.
Look at the negativity in the world around us.
Right.
Keeping your positivity in today's world is so crucial. And I really have been so grateful every day, because I say I have chosen a life through selling and teaching light that allows me to stay healthy, to be pain-free. And I come from a background of very bad horse riding accidents, lots of pain in my life earlier in life. I don't have those issues anymore.
Right.
I'm rarely sick. I'm very positive. I sleep like a dream. And, you know, at 5:30, I'm awake. I'm good. You know, you get that to where you can set your clock and you can reset your body's clock because you have the energy to do it. You have to focus on your mind.
You know, one of the things that I realized after a friend of mine said this was early on in starting, you know, light therapy and using it and working with it. But she said to me, you know, people ask me all the time, how does this light therapy work? And she said, I just tell them, I don't know how it works. All I know is all my old lady aches and pains are gone. And I thought about that, and it's like all of us that use light therapy all the time, we don't suffer from aches and pains like the rest of the world does that are, you know, in our age group. I mean, that is not my issue. I got things maybe, but not aches and pains.
Yeah,
and if I
might overdo it and then come in, do lights, and it never affects me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but on an energy level, you know, too, I mean, I really do see that sometimes, you know, what a person needs more than anything is that time off, that reset that seems to happen, you know, in just 20 to 30 minutes under the lights. And how many people, I'm sure you've had this, where people will say, all of a sudden they've had clarity over some issue in their life, or all of a sudden they don't feel this anxiety or anxiousness about a certain topic. Because we got them into a relaxed enough, you know, or they got themselves into a relaxed enough state, you know, that their vision opens back up. And Hannah Kroger would always tell us that, now, you know, I'm jumping over into the energy world here, but that our pineal gland, which is, you know, as you know, in the center of our brain, if the pineal in the crown chakra was closed, that a person, you could work with them, they'd get well, then they get sick, they get well, then they get sick. And the point is that we do get energy through our crown. So a baby's born and those bones are separated. And then eventually they close up, right? So, but we're connected to our maker through our head, through our crown. And so she would always tell us, you know, hey, you've got to make sure that pineal gland is open if you want someone to get well and stay well. And so, you know, she taught us a little technique that you command it, and, you use command and for the, you know, I won't go into that right now, but what I'll say is that, because I don't want to offend anybody's spiritual, religious beliefs, but anyway, you know, but we take authority in his name. Okay, I'll say it. And, you know, if my customer knows and is open to that, I can real quick get that connection. But a lot of times you're in a situation like a trade show or whatever, and you can see that there's no light. For me, I see absence and presence of light. That's how I can see if someone's sick or is being affected by some energies that are not their own. I'll just call it that, the darkness, whatever. And so I started to realize that if we just put a pad on the top of the head and flooded the system with that much light, it opens up that person and gets them reconnected to this source, to God. And so, you know, for myself personally, even though, you know, that's not what any of our systems or FDA cleared for reconnecting someone to their source, I mean, come on. You know, God is light, you know, and so we need to be connected. Yeah. And so it's simple enough just to, hey, put a pad on somebody's head, get them reconnected, even for a few minutes.
My terminology is usually connected to the universe, universal knowledge, universal energy. And as you know, I do a lot of light therapy by focusing on acupuncture points and
Right.
opening and activating acupuncture points. And we do a lot of the same things by coming in here and doing third eye, doing the top of the head. And this is such a massively huge point for bringing up the brain focus, bringing up the clarity of this, being able to think rationally.
Right.
And I know I saw my great grandnephew this weekend. And for him, he has a pretty disruptive life. It's not been easy for him, and his focus and his mental clarity and his ability for school.
Mm-hmm.
He has started using lights with his grandmother every day. And it started with doing it for her, but also then he would do his and she would do hers. And his ability to focus, his calmness, his not getting emotionally triggered as easily by his little sister, by life in general, has been huge. And it's something he could do for himself.
Right.
And that's just so brilliant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, focusing right here at the top of the head,
right.
Like you said, opening up the pineal, opening up the crown chakra.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And getting us reconnected. We all need to be connected. I have to be careful when as we do, again, when we're teaching the different classes, not to offend someone's spiritual beliefs, because we have people from every religious, background, and I don't want to offend anybody's. But, when I'm teaching my energy model, I say, let's just call God the big battery in the sky. I mean, that source, that's a big battery in the sky. And if we're connected to that big battery, we never will run out of energy, right? It's when we get disconnected that we run out of energy. And so if the jumper cable is this way, this way, right, we got to keep that jumper cable connected. And, we can so easily do it by putting ourselves in a relaxed state, opening this, be connected to the light in the pads, and then we're connected with the light from our source.
That triggers something. I was in a discussion somewhere in the last couple of weeks about, a brilliant TED talk that I saw about the opposite of depression is not happiness, that the opposite of depression was connection.
I love that. I love that.
And when we open all of our energy circuits, when we open, whether it's the crown chakra, when we are open, we can be connected. But if we're closed off, we can't be connected to each other, to source, to that battery. Right. And, we see so much improvement in depression with regular use of light therapy.
Right.
I never really put it together in that same way, but that is opening that connection. So I love that.
Right. And, from my energy model perspective, there's that line, and above which, there's the light and there's the darkness. And we want to do everything above the line and stay there as much as we can, and the light therapy, obviously, we're literally flooding the system, getting into those higher vibrations of light. And so, of course, we know that's where we want to stay above this line. But I realized when I heard the first person in one of my seminars back years ago get up and share, said, can I share something? I was using light therapy for the pain in my back. And so I had all these sessions of light therapy, the light therapy. And then he ended up, buying a system. And he said, but what I didn't tell anybody was that I was clinically depressed, and I'm not depressed anymore. And in that moment, I remember thinking, depression is a below the line, we're talking energy all the time. So what's depressed? It's the energy field and where if I say, oh, well, I love to be around Kay because she uplifts me. Well, what does that mean? Literally brings me into the higher vibrations of light. So we're speaking energy all the time. By the way, did you know that I'm doing a TED Talk? Oh, in Arizona.
I did.
Yeah, because COVID got shifted to August, but yeah, on this topic, on understanding energy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and hopefully people can find it. They'll go use your
Yep.
link and go to your site and they can find the TED Talk.
Yeah.
I've got it on the latest one that you gave us. I've got the link on my calendar. That's
Yeah, we
great.
just got the new date. So, and they're having me, play a little bit of my music to make the point of that I'm using music to bring people into the higher vibrations of life very intentionally. The words of music, and I use the to my guitar to the solfeggio frequencies, and which is in most of the light therapy devices that people are using, of the solfeggio tones used for a reason, right? So it's all coming together.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
Ginger, I really appreciate you sharing. And do you have any other stories that you just have that you
No,
think
I
would be
think
appropriate?
I could go on and on and on, with stories, obviously, but I think we're good. I really want to thank you for, doing this, bringing this to people, this opportunity for this symposium, because, I know that we're called to a mission right now. The world is frightened, really frightened, across the world, and for good reason, because it's like, if you feel like you don't have anything to fight the monster, right, then it's a frightening world. Well, I know that you've interviewed Marcy Denton, so I'm sure she's gotten into some of the latest research with knowing that nitric oxide is the second line of defense for the COVID virus, for our immune system, right? Because once COVID virus knocks out the interferon pathway, then that's why it's so pesky and dangerous, unless we have enough immune system and with nitric oxide. And so anything that we can do to do that. So I just think that, we're part of the team that was called to in this changing world, to give people the tools that they need, self-empowerment, and tools that they can use for their whole family, and put the care, true health care back into the family. And
Care into health. That's right.
Really back in the family, and feeling like we have some power over, the craziness of the world. And what's after COVID-19? There's something else. And so we need to get these brilliant temples cleaned out, capable to carry the energy that's becoming more and more and more intense in a good way. And anyway, and so light therapy, I just think light therapy is such an easy way, but I do feel like we're the part of the team that's being called to give people tools.
Well, hopefully a lot of people will learn about light from this. Yeah.
For a time such as this, so
thank you again, Ginger. I appreciate you taking the time to interview with me and share your stories.
Well, I have great respect for you, Kay. I know you're one of the grandmothers of light therapy. That's how I think of you, and I don't say that as an age, but rather in that you've been in this industry way longer than anybody that I know. And, you've been working with the animals and figuring things out. And, it hasn't always been easy.
We've had our challenges.
What's that?
We've had our challenges.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm fond of saying we're pioneers in the industry, and a lot of times pioneers, as they're forging a new frontier, sometimes they get shot back by their own other pioneers. Not because anybody means to. It's just it's the Wild West out there sometimes. So
yes.
I know that you've really done so much for our industry, and I want to thank you on behalf of the whole industry for doing everything that you've done for these decades that you've been doing it.
Well, that's very sweet. Thank you, Ginger, and we'll talk to you more soon.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kay.